From about January to May, I am dynasty. The only thing I'm thinking about is the long term. Well, starting in June, once we get to the summer, I'm beginning to shift my focus a little bit more towards 2023. I mean, I've already done like 200 underdog drafts. I mean, I'm just trying to get as accurate for 2023 as I possibly can. So my mindset has shifted a bit with a couple of these players. Of course, these are going to be dynasty rankings, so I still want to be looking at the long term, but I also want to be taking a strong consideration into what we should see this next season and how that will ultimately impact these players' dynasty value going forward. But before we get into this, make sure you're dropping a like on this video. Subscribe to the channel if you play Dynasty Fantasy Football. And of course, if you want to get access to all my Dynasty rankings, you can on flockfantasy.com. Over there on flockfantasy.com, not only are all my Dynasty rankings up to date, but at the same time, you can find all the Dynasty rankings of all your favorite content creators, find everybody's premium content, and on top of that, when you sign up with promo code FLOCK, yours truly will go through and make a podcast breaking down your Dynasty team. But I think that should be about it. Let's go ahead and let's dive into tier one. I'm not going to waste your time. Patrick Mahomes, there's nothing to talk about. He stands by himself. The only thing to possibly discuss is what would the realistic trade price be for Patrick Mahomes? Now, I really don't have a good answer for you on that. I mean, I don't even know how you would go about trading for Mahomes. Now, Corey uploaded on flockfantasy.com a dynasty quarterback trade value chart, which, I mean, maybe we can use that for this video in some of these instances, because I am just baffled of what anybody would be going through and trading Mahomes for. He has Mahomes with 4 first rounders plus equivalent to his trade value, which honestly is probably a little fair. Let me know in the comment section. If you were offered 3 2024 first and 2 2025 first for Patrick Mahomes, would you take that deal? Let me know. But going down to tier 2, we're going to have Josh Allen, Jalen Hurts, and Joe Burrow. Now, I mean, Allen, not too much to discuss, right? But when it comes to Jalen Hurts, Joe Burrow, these were quarterbacks that at the very beginning of the offseason, I had their rankings flipped. I had Burrow at 3. I had Jalen Hurts at 4, and my thought process for this is, okay, well, I've seen time and time again that these quarterbacks that win inside the pocket, like Joe Burrow, they can last till they're 40 years old. You could see Burrow turning into Drew Brees, Tom Brady, Ben Roethlisberger, Aaron Rodgers, and you don't have to worry about how Burrow's game is going to look when he's 35. Should we be worrying about that with Jalen Hurts? Not necessarily. I mean, even if Jalen Hurts, say, falls off at 32, 33, 34, and that's even if, of course, it's not guaranteed to happen, but even if that were to occur, because Jalen Hurts relies a little bit more on athleticism, the man is still so damn young that, I mean, at the end of the day, if he's 24 and making it till his 30s, you're getting 6, 7 QB1 seasons. I mean, right now, if you're looking at just for 2023, like in my underdog rankings, I have Jalen Hurts as my quarterback 1 overall for 2023. So why the hell should I be sitting here going, oh, okay, well, Burrow's going to be better in his 30s. It doesn't matter. Go ahead, take Jalen Hurts ahead of him. Jalen Hurts just got the massive contract, and obviously Jalen Hurts in a phenomenal situation. Now, dropping down to our next tier, we are going to have Justin Herbert and Lawrence. And this is something that I thought a decent amount about, because I think you can make an argument that Herbert and Lawrence should be separated by a tier, because I definitely would prefer Justin Herbert over Trevor Lawrence at this point. The reason I'm ultimately going to have them in the same tier is if you were to see a massive blow-up season from Trevor Lawrence this next year, where Trevor Lawrence ends up being a top 5 quarterback in fantasy, then I think you could see the Dynasty community pushing Trevor Lawrence to be a top 3 quarterback in Dynasty next season. And I think you could see the Dynasty community quickly viewing Trevor Lawrence the same way that they view Joe Burrow currently. So for the potential of a massive spike in value, I will have Lawrence in the same tier as Herbert, regardless he's going to be at 6. Now, dropping down to our next tier, we will have Lamar Jackson at 7. Now, with Lamar, if you're looking at like my 2023 rankings for just an underdog draft, of course he's going to be higher than this, right? I would have Lamar over Lawrence. I'd have Lamar over Herbert. But, I mean, Lamar Jackson was drafted back in 2018. Lamar Jackson is a quarterback that Yes, we'll throw the ball a little bit more with the change in offensive coordinator in Baltimore this next season. But at the same time, I will be slightly concerned in terms of what you are going to project out with Lamar Jackson once he hits 30 years old. I think Lamar Jackson is a little bit more reliant on his athleticism than what you have from Jalen Hurts. Lamar Jackson has also not shown the ability to be able to stay healthy through the past 2 seasons. So I am going to put a slight discount on Lamar. I think if you're drafting in just a 2023 redraft league, hell yes, I'm all in on Lamar Jackson, specifically because his rushing upside. I don't necessarily know how that translates 3 to 4 years from now, though. So from a dynasty perspective, still clearly an elite asset, still a first-round startup pick. I'm just not viewing him in the same tier as someone like Justin Herbert. Now, in this same tier, I am going to have DeSean Watson. And I understand this is going to look very aggressive for DeSean Watson, right? Where if you look at where Watson goes in dynasty startups, 9 times out of 10, he is going significantly behind Lamar Jackson. But if I am going to be going back to what you had with DeSean Watson as a Houston Texan, DeSean Watson was a truly elite level quarterback in Houston. DeSean Watson is a quarterback that if he gets back to where he was as a Houston Texan, you could see him actually move up into the Justin Herbert, Trevor Lawrence tier in these dynasty rankings. I understand he was drafted in 2017, so maybe you say, well, Mason, come on, what the hell, man? I mean, isn't DeSean Watson a little bit older? DeSean Watson declared for the NFL draft out of Clemson at an incredibly young age. So DeSean Watson's actually a lot younger than one would assume. And on top of this, if you're looking at DeSean Watson, this is a quarterback that doesn't just win with his athleticism. I think Watson wins more so with his arm talent. Now, going over to our last guy in this tier, we will have Justin Fields. With Justin Fields, if you are in a 1 quarterback dynasty format, I am all in. I want to go through and chase that upside that you have as a rusher. I think if you look at how the Chicago Bears improve the overall roster around Justin Fields, a strong argument could be made that Justin Fields has the upside to be a top 3 quarterback in fantasy this season. And obviously, this is an incredibly young quarterback. So with that kind of ceiling, I'm all about it if you're playing in that 1 QB league. If you're in a super flex format, however, I'm going to be a little hesitant. Now, I understand the Chicago Bears should be the most improved passing offense in the NFL this next season, but what if they aren't? What if the Chicago Bears aren't great? What if they earn a bottom 3 NFL draft pick yet again this next year? I think in that scenario, it is a possibility. It is in the range of outcomes that the Chicago Bears next season, if they get the ability to take an elite level quarterback prospect, would do just that if Justin Fields does not take strides forward with the massive upgrade with this offensive line, plus the addition of DJ Moore. Now, I'm not saying that's likely. I'm not saying that is going to happen, but I do want to at least acknowledge that it is in the range of outcomes, which is why even if he does have just as high, if not a higher ceiling than someone like DeSean Watson, I'm going to be going Watson over Fields in Superflex, considering the fact that given Watson's contract, Watson is 100% a guaranteed starter in 2024. Watson is 100% a guaranteed starter in 2025. Fields maybe at 90%. It's pretty damn high, but it's not 100%. Now, dropping down to our next tier, we are going to be looking at Anthony Richardson at 10. Now, yes, this is much higher than I had Anthony Richardson right after the NFL draft. Right after the NFL draft, I did have Bryce Young over Anthony Richardson, but I cannot ignore 2023 expectations. If you're looking at underdog drafts right now, just for 2023, Anthony Richardson is going as a top 10 quarterback for this season as a rookie. As a rookie. And of course, this is because his rushing upside. This is because Anthony Richardson has the possibility to go out there and lead the NFL in rushing yards and rushing touchdowns as a rookie. And if that were to occur, Anthony Richardson is locked and loaded as a top 5 quarterback in startups next offseason. Now, even if he doesn't lead the NFL in rushing, even if he's just a top 5 guy in rushing this next season, you could still see Anthony Richardson continuing to move up with this overall dynasty value. So given the year 1 expectations that we have indicated by high stakes underdog drafts currently, I think you have to give respect to the range of outcomes of where Anthony Richardson's dynasty value will most likely be a year from now. And of course, if you're wanting to get in a draft with us on Underdog, we're drafting literally every single day on the live stream there on the main channel. I mean, all you have to do is go sign up to Underdog Fantasy with the link in the comment section, the link in the description. When you sign up for Underdog, use promo code FLOCK, and they're going to match your first deposit dollar for dollar up to $100. Not only are they going to match your deposit, but at the same time, you are going to get my 2023 Dynasty Fantasy Football rankings, and you are going to be getting a free trial to flockfantasy.com. Best ball, so there's no time commitment at all during the season. How I drafted over 700 teams last year and won $150,000 on Underdog. Let's go over to our next player. It's going to be Kyler Murray. With Kyler, if he was fully healthy, he would be up there probably at 7. But with him coming off a destroyed knee, obviously it is going to be difficult to project out how many games you get from Kyler Murray this next season. What I am very worried about when it comes to Kyler Murray is the fact that if you are looking at Las Vegas win totals, right now Vegas has the Arizona Cardinals as the worst team in the NFL this next season. If that is true, and they get the ability to take Caleb Williams #1 overall, I don't think it's likely, but I think it is in the range of outcomes for the Arizona Cardinals to be looking to move on from Kyler Murray, which would be devastating for his particular dynasty value. Now, with that being said, at the same time, it's a possibility that if they don't get the #1 overall pick with either their own selection or the Houston Texans, who their win total is currently sitting second worst, that they're able to go out there and they're able to add in Marvin Harrison Jr. at the very top of the NFL draft. They're able to add in another stud offensive lineman. I love what Arizona did from a real life perspective this offseason. I think they won the NFL draft this past year. Very worried about the injury, very worried about Las Vegas win totals and what that may say about Kyler Murray this next season. Now, in the same tier, we will have Bryce Young. With Young, I think he's going to be a better player than what you have with Anthony Richardson from a real life perspective. I'm definitely rooting for this guy. I mean, hell, I got to interview him at the NFL draft. It's just more so he doesn't have the same rushing upside as Anthony Richardson, and you can make an argument that he's in a worse situation as well. Now, going down to our next quarterback, we are going to have CJ Stroud. So what I am very worried about with CJ Stroud and why we are going to have him a tier below those other rookies is this is a quarterback that is a rookie that has no weapons. And right now, if you are looking at the Las Vegas win totals for the Houston Texans, they are the second worst projected team this next year in the NFL. The only team worse is Arizona, but at least Arizona has their own first-round pick this next season and Houston's. So what I'm worried about is the long-term situation with CJ Stroud. If Vegas sportsbooks are telling us right now that the Houston Texans have one of the worst teams in the NFL and they're not able to use their first-round pick next season because it's in Arizona, I'm a little bit worried about the situation. Plus, you have no rushing upside with Stroud. Now, we're going to have Dak and Tua in the same tier. Now, I know y'all probably had a chance to read our article on Tua on flockfantasy.com, or at the same time, watch that video on Flock Fantasy's YouTube channel. When it comes to Tua, I am all in on betting that he is an underrated asset and that we should be targeting Tua in redraft leagues and 2023 best ball leagues. This season, I think that Tua is a value when you are drafting for the short term. Now, at the same time, the concussions are a very real concern. Like we recapped at the very end of our article on flockfantasy.com, I think you can be concerned about the long term with Tua from a dynasty perspective of those concussions. If the concussions were not a thing, I think Tua would be ahead of Stroud. He would be ahead of Dak. He would probably be right up there at 10 or 11. But I wouldn't be putting a discount on him just because it's a massive question mark for the long term. Now, 16, we will have Daniel Jones. He has rushing upside. He has the new contract. Doesn't have a lot to play around with. I know you add in Darren Waller, but in reality, that's not going to be much for the Giants this next season. Really hoping that he takes the year 2 jump with Brian Dable this next year. Now, this is what we have to talk about, right? Trey Lance. Trey Lance will be our next quarterback here. And with Lance, I am well ahead of the market in redraft leagues for 2023. The man is being drafted behind Brock Purdy. Everybody and their mom is screaming at me, Mason, you're an idiot. Stop drafting Trey Lance. He is the backup quarterback. With that being said, I personally am an idiot and have a very difficult time looking at a player that the San Francisco 49ers went ahead and invested 3 first-round picks to go and get. He has just as much rushing upside as what you'd see with someone like Anthony Richardson. And historically speaking, unless Trey Lance is the biggest bust in NFL history, he will start this next season. If you're looking at keep trade cut, right now he's the quarterback 22 there. So I'm ahead of market. And if you're looking at underdog drafts, I mean, I'm well ahead of market on Trey Lance. I still believe he's a starting quarterback this next season. I think most likely he's a starting quarterback for the 49ers, but if he is not a starting quarterback for the 49ers and it is truly Brock Purdy, I think Lance will be traded somewhere else, and I think he will put up fantasy points given his rushing upside, similar to Richardson, similar to Justin Fields. Now, our next 2 guys, we're going to have Russ and Geno Smith in this same tier. Russ has the contract, right? He was horrendous last year, but I mean, they go out there and they get Sean Payton. Geno Smith was much better, and Geno Smith at the same time has all the weapons now to play around with. You have Metcalf, you have Lockett, you have JSN, you have Zach Charbonnet, a better passing down running back than Kenneth Walker. I think that you are getting a massive value on Geno Smith in those dynasty startup drafts that we've been doing on the channel as of late. I mean, Geno Smith falls like round 6, 7 of those startups. I'm going to continuously draft Geno Smith there. Now, our next tier, we'll have Jared Goff at 20. Goff has no rushing upside. And at the same time, when it comes to Jared Goff, I mean, you don't really know what to expect when you are looking at, I don't know. I mean, a Detroit Lions team that people are all in on for this next season, but that has historically been just disappointing year after year after year. If Goff had rushing upside, I'd be completely fine to have him higher than this. I just realistically don't know what the actual ceiling is from a fantasy football perspective on a quarterback that's going to have less than like 50 rushing yards this next year. Now, Kenny Pickett will be 21. I mean, with Pickett, he was bad as a rookie, right? But most rookie quarterbacks are bad. I mean, I'm not going to just completely write him off after year 1. So we'll see what we get in year 2. There's not much analysis here. Hopefully he changes. Doesn't have a lot of rushing upside. If he had more, he would be higher. Now, Cousins will be 22. Kirk Cousins aging. Sounds like there was an actual possibility that the Minnesota Vikings were wanting to go ahead and move on from Kirk Cousins this offseason. Now, obviously, that did not happen. Obviously, Kirk Cousins is still the starting quarterback for the Minnesota Vikings. And I would say in the short term, if you're a contending team, I would definitely have Cousins ahead of this point, right? Because you have Addison, you have Hawkinson, you have Jefferson. You should be in a phenomenal situation. Now, our next quarterback, Jordan Love, is also someone that I just don't know what to do with. I think if you are a contending team, you probably prefer Goff. You probably prefer Cousins. If you're a rebuilding team, you probably prefer Pickett. Love kind of falls in the middle where you don't know if you want him on a rebuilder. You don't know if you want him on a contender. You have no idea what he is. At least I have no idea what he is. I would love to know your opinion on Jordan Love. I mean, we kind of have an idea of what Aaron Rodgers is at 24, right? I mean, Rodgers should be a high-end quarterback too for a short term. I mean, you're liking him on a contending team, of course, but I mean, you just have no interest if you're a rebuilder. Like if you're a rebuilder, you're doing everything you can to move off of Aaron Rodgers and to go get Kenny Pickett, to go get Jordan Love. But I think that's all I have for you. Now, please go down there, drop a like on this video, subscribe to the channel if you play Dynasty Fantasy Football. And of course, if you want to get access to all my Dynasty Fantasy Football rankings, you can on flockfantasy.com, promo code FLOCK for 30% off any subscription, or you can by going and making a $10 deposit on Underdog. That way you can hop into some best ball drafts with us. You can get a 100% deposit match with promo code FLOCK, plus my 2023 Dynasty Fantasy Football rankings, plus a free trial to flockfantasy.com. You can find both those links down there in the description. But thank you again, ladies and gentlemen. Really do appreciate you. Really hope you have a great day, and really hope that we get to see you with the live stream on the Flock Fantasy YouTube channel later today.